faculty member here, an associate professor in the Department of Educational Leadership. And beyond that, I'm also the co-chair of the Research on Women in Education Special Interest Group of the American Educational Research Association. So this is one of my passions, women in education. All of my research, or almost all my research, also has to do with women and their role in education, and particularly their connection to technology. So that's how I ended up on this, moderating this panel. I want to tell you how excited I am to be the moderator of this panel. We have a wonderful group of women alums who've gathered here to talk to you about education. The women that you see seated in front of you have been working in a variety of roles in their own organizations, and I'm just going to take a moment to have each one of them introduce themselves to you briefly, and then we'll have them, after they've introduced themselves, they'll also give you a brief statement about their connection to education. So I'm going to start with Anne Marie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Anne Marie Borneman, and I'm a visiting professor in the Department of Special Education in the Education Unit at St. Joseph's University. I also serve as the research leader on the Alliance for Catholic Education at St. Joseph's University program, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm also a senior fellow at the Center for Catholic Urban Education. I began my career in special education, and for about the past 15 years I've been working as a school psychologist in a variety of settings, most recently in Catholic urban schools. My husband and I live in Bryn Mawr, and I have a daughter who is being married exactly 1 year from yesterday. So I see lots of young women in the audience, and I'm going to be in the back, and I need the names of florists, DJs, and photographers, like fast. So great. And it's very, very nice to be here.
Hi, my name is Mary Harkins, and I'm principal of Archbishop Wood High School, and I think of all the panelists, I am the one who has that old-fashioned, traditional education background. I started out as a classroom teacher, went on to be a department chair, and then an assistant principal, and then principal. Always been in Catholic education, and I think in comparison to the other panelists, I feel that my background is kind of boring because I've always been in the same thing. But it's not. Education is an exciting field, and I feel truly blessed that I picked education, and 42 years later, I'm still loving it. That's my story.
Hi, my name is Christine Healy, and I probably am the odd man out here. I am a nurse by background trade, and worked in healthcare for a lot of years, but in some strange way, I ended up running an education foundation, and called the International Education Foundation. My focus is sustainability in Catholic education. We have a particular focus in the inner city, and today I'll probably talk mostly about Camden, New Jersey, which is just over the bridge. And there I was involved with founding a new business model for urban Catholic education. And in order to support that, I'm a big school choice person, and so I founded or co-founded an organization called We Can Do Better New Jersey, which is an advocacy organization. So I have an interesting kind of path. I'll tell kind of a bit of a different story, but hopefully I will deserve being on this panel given all these distinguished educators. But thanks for having me today.
Hi, my name is Becky Bodwin. I am a 2011 graduate of St. Joe's University, where I was really excited to be the commencement speaker from my class, and also the 10th member of my family to graduate from St. Joe's. Both my personal and professional life center on nonprofit work in Philadelphia in education, the arts, and athletics. I'm a 2005 graduate of LaSalle University. Had to get that in for my grandpa, the 1955 graduate. There I was a member of the women's lacrosse team and also a candidate for the Rhodes Scholarship. Currently I serve as the Director of Development for the College of Arts and Sciences at Drexel University, where I will be raising money for their new Integrated Sciences building, as well as our new partnership with the Academy of Natural Sciences, which I'm very excited about. Prior to that, I served as the Director of Development and Communications for the Academy of Manioc. I worked here at St. Joe's as the Associate Director of Athletic Development, and prior to that I was at Malvern Prep School. Artistically, I donate a lot of artwork and time to a number of nonprofits and charity auctions in the Philadelphia region. Additionally, I serve on the board of the Developmental Enterprises Corporation, which is a nonprofit that supports adults with developmental disabilities, and I work with Phil Martelli on that project. And athletically, I've translated my love of sports and writing into fundraising, where I gather up a lot of friends and family to run different races all over the country in support of different worthy nonprofits, including recently I ran the Live Strong Austin Marathon, so happy Live Strong Day, everybody. Happy to be here with you to celebrate it. And I will be running the Boston Marathon for charity again in April. And finally, I'm co-authoring a series of books and media on the impact of healthy living and fitness on being happy and healthy, having a great lifestyle.
So you can see what an amazing panel we have here. We're so excited to have them give a brief talk about their philosophy of education and how it connects to social justice. And pretty much we've given the panelists kind of a blank slate to talk about whatever it is within that topic that resonates with them. So that's what they'll be doing. And I'll be the bad guy because I'm going to sit right there and time them. They're each going to talk about 10 minutes or less, and I'll be in the front making signs at them. And then when they finish speaking, we'll have some time for questions. And I hope that while they're talking, you can compose a few questions in your own mind that you'd like to ask such a fine panel, because they have a lot of expertise between them. Is there anything else before we continue? Okay, then our first speaker is going to be Dr. Anne Marie Bornemann. So, welcome her.
Hello, everybody. I want to be Becky when I grow up. I just want to accomplish like a tenth of that. Exciting. As I said, my name is Dr. Anne Marie Bornemann, and I am a visiting professor here at St. Joe's. And I want to tell you about several things that I do at St. Joe's. But I want to start by telling you where I work. My office is on the McGuire campus across City Avenue, and I work in Marion Hall. And if you haven't gotten there yet, you have to walk across today and take a look at Marion Hall. It's absolutely beautiful. It's filled with light. It's very airy. It's a lovely place to work. I tell you where I work for two reasons. As those of you who are alumni or you live in the area are aware, the McGuire campus was up until recently the Episcopal Academy. And it just so happens that I was the school psychologist at Episcopal Academy for the past 13 years. And the last 5 of those years, I actually had an office in Marion Hall. So I've sort of come full circle, you could say. The second reason that I tell you about where I work is because one of the most interesting changes at Marion Hall, since the time it was what we called the main building at Episcopal Academy, is the creation of a beautiful new entrance and the addition of a statue of St. Ignatius Loyola that stands outside of that entrance. The statue, entitled The Pilgrim, was a gift to the university by Robert D. Felice Jr., a graduate of St. Joseph's and the Board of Trustees Vice Chair. I want to tell you a little story about the statue. This past August, we welcomed a new colleague into our department. Sam Slike is our Director of Online Programs, and in addition to being new to the Department of Special Education, he's also new to St. Joseph's. Sam's office window looks out over the entrance to Marion Hall, and one day Sam called me into his office and asked me, "Who is that man, and why does he look like he can't get away from Marion Hall fast enough?" Well, the man that Sam was talking about was the statue of St. Ignatius Loyola, the Pilgrim. Shortly after this conversation with Sam, I read a quote by St. Ignatius that reminded me of Sam's comment about the statue. St. Ignatius described the ideal Jesuit as one who lives with one foot raised. So the next time I entered Marion Hall, I took a closer look at the statue and realized that the St. Ignatius of the statue indeed has his rear foot raised, as if to take a step forward, maybe as a pilgrim to begin a journey, to move from the confines of the university and out into the world. So you can see that Sam's comment was not far from the truth. So that, my fellow women of St. Joseph's, and some gentlemen in the room also, is what I think it means to teach in, to work in, to have graduated from, to be part of a Jesuit university. To me, it means that each of us is willing to take the journey outside the boundaries of the university, wherever it is that God sends us, and that each of us must be ready for the journey. You heard Mary Lou talk about the Magus. St. Ignatius, the man, called each of us to the fullest development of ourselves as humans. To attain this goal, he insisted on the Magus, that we seek the more for the greater glory of God. St. Ignatius, the statue, carries only one thing, a Bible, in his left hand, but in his right hand is a walking stick. I like to think that he needs such a large walking stick because he knows that the journey will be long and not always easy. So let me take just a few minutes to tell you about the education unit at St. Joseph's and 3 of the areas within the unit that specifically encourage and support change outside of the university. As I said in my introduction, I'm a visiting professor in the Department of Special Education. And while much of what takes place in the department happens within classrooms, there are many opportunities for our students, both graduate and undergraduate students, to move beyond the classroom and into the world. Some of these opportunities are mandated by the Pennsylvania Department of Education in order to meet the field experience and student teaching requirements. Other opportunities are in addition to the prescribed Department of Education requirements. I'm just going to give you a few very brief examples. One example is a course offered by Dr. Virginia Johnson that is a service learning course. The service learning program at St. Joseph's is a wonderful example of how learning can take place beyond the boundaries of the university, in urban schools, in homeless shelters, and even within the prison walls. In Dr. Johnson's social studies course, her students take what they're learning in the classroom, for instance, the concept and practice of conflict management and conflict resolution, directly into urban schools. The students then have the opportunity to return to the classroom for discussion and reflection on what they've learned. In my Department of Special Education, Dr. William Murphy teaches a course on instructional methods that actually takes place in Gompers Elementary School. I see some nods there. This is the 6th year that this course is being offered. The students learn and discuss within Gompers, and then they move out into the classrooms and work one-on-one with the students. An exciting program in the Department of Education involves our ongoing partnership with the Academy in Manayunk, as Becky was talking about, and that's a school for learning disabled children. Our Teacher Scholar program enables our certified teachers to receive their master's degrees and 12 graduate credits by interning at the Academy. And I mentioned that there are field experience and student teaching requirements that the graduates and undergraduates have to meet. Many of these also take place in urban schools. And right now we have our students in 15 urban schools. That's my first role at St. Joe's. My second role is as the research team leader for the Alliance for Catholic Education at St. Joseph's University, which we call ACE-SJU. I'm going to talk briefly about the program. If anybody has interest in it, I can talk to you about it a little bit more afterwards. Our ACE program is modeled after a program that was begun by the University of Notre Dame in 1994. The program welcomes college graduates who have degrees in fields other than education to commit to 2 years of learning and service. We currently have a cohort of 14 ACE fellows who are in their 2nd year of teaching in 9 urban Catholic schools in Philadelphia. At the same time, they're pursuing their master's degree in education at St. Joseph's. We're in the process of recruiting our 2nd cohort. So if there's anyone among you who are students or even recent graduates and might be interested in taking on this tremendous challenge, you can find us on the web, just my little commercial, you can find us at sju.edu. This program is aligned with the mission to teach students, and if any of you know Father Feeney, he does this, and I'm going to do that, to teach students to act and think as men and women for others, with the goal to help preserve and revive Catholic school education by providing a steady infusion of highly trained, quality Catholic school teachers into the Catholic school system. And finally, I am so pleased to say that I am serving as the senior fellow, along with Father Dan Joyce, who is my fellow, and Dr. Robert Palestini, our founding director, for the Center for Catholic Urban Education. This is a brand new initiative on the university, just begun within the past 6 months. The center will serve as the nexus for everything that is taking place at the university related to Catholic urban schools. And there's a lot that's happening here. We also hope to serve as the nexus of stakeholders who are involved in Catholic urban schools throughout the city of Philadelphia to really have a place for conversation, and we want that to happen in the center of Catholic urban education right here at St. Joseph's University. So I want to finish by saying that I think what makes our education unit at St. Joseph's special is that we provide opportunity for our faculty and our students to reach outside the boundaries of the university campus, to incorporate service with learning, to seek the magis at all times, and in the words of the Ignatian pedagogy, to do so in cooperation with others equally dedicated to the reform of society and its structures. So I invite all of you, men and women of St. Joseph's, to take up your Bible and your walking stick, and in the spirit of St. Ignatius, raise one foot and then the other, and move courageously forward beyond the boundaries of this university, of your home, of your place of work, and out into our communities, our schools, our neighborhoods, and our world. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. I put on my glasses, and whether you need glasses or not, if you're looking at this and it says 94, you're probably thinking, well, she didn't take very good care of herself. I actually graduated from now Immaculata University in 1970, graduated from Little Flower, an all girls Catholic high school, and then Immaculata, which was all women. I came back to St. Joe's in the 90s to get to part of the educational leadership to get my principal certification and supervisor's certificate. So as I said, my experience is rather different from the great diverse backgrounds that the other panelists have. When I went to Immaculata, I majored in history, minored in education with the desire to become a teacher. Back then in the 1960s, when you would meet somebody, a gentleman, at a St. Joe's function, they'd say, so you're in college, so are you going to be a nurse or a teacher? So education has always been something that has welcomed women, embraced women, but progressing through education to those higher levels is not always something that has been easy for women. My experience was really rather smooth in that once I got my principal certification, a couple of years, not long after that, I applied for and became principal of Cardinal Doherty High School. I was not the first woman, I was the third woman. But I can't tell you how many people over time that I met, and they said, "You're a woman. How come you're principal? Isn't it supposed to be a priest?" Or I would meet somebody and they'd say, "Well, what do you do?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm principal of Cardinal Doherty and now principal of Archbishop Wood." They'll say, "Well, sister." And I'll say, "No, my husband wouldn't appreciate that, nor would my children." So while education, the traditional classroom teacher, has been something to which women have had entree for many years, progressing through to higher levels has not always been the easiest thing. So I want to talk a little bit about differing roles of women, because I see people shaking their heads. Some of the graduates who are here who, like me, went into education many, many years ago. Well, things have changed, and I'm sure if any of you are in education today or paying attention to education, you know that yes, women can take leadership roles, but also in education there's so many different things that did not exist in the past. When I studied education, you became a classroom teacher. There was no such thing as learning about special ed, because that was a totally different major. We didn't worry about inclusion. We did not worry about technology. I see Nancy Caramanico back there, who I worked with for many years in technology, and held my hand as we tried to bring in technology, and talked to Terry at lunch today about technology. These are things that we weren't worried about before. There's also, but what I want to mention also is there's so many different things in the field of education today. In a Catholic school, we now have a president and principal, and I was saying to, I forget who I was saying it to today, but the challenge of that person who is the president in a Catholic school who really does need a business background because you're doing a lot of fundraising. There are also admissions directors and business managers and so many different fields in education. And I mention this because many times there are people that sit here and think, gee, I would love to be involved in education. They see that great social justice component of education, whether I'm in a suburban Catholic school. Cardinal Doherty was in an urban Catholic school, but even in a suburban Catholic school where people are paying tuition and many of our students come from rather comfortable backgrounds, what you can do in education for social justice is just phenomenal. You don't have to be in a poor urban area. These are all potential leaders that we can have a great impact on. So I think about those people who want to be involved in education but perhaps cannot see themselves standing in front of a classroom. I find it funny when people will say, oh, I just don't want to stand in front of students. We invite people in to speak and they say, to speak to 1,000 high school students? I think, so what? They're just high school kids. But to many people, it's a daunting experience. So I want people to think about the impact that you, as a person in a variety of backgrounds, as you see with the panels today, a variety of backgrounds can go into education. You don't have to be that classroom teacher, marking the papers, preparing lessons, dealing with recalcitrant students. You can be involved in many, many different ways. I think that's an important thing to consider. The other thing that, as a principal, I do interview potential candidates for teaching positions, and something that always makes me very sad is a person who a little bit older than the typical college graduate, sometimes much older than the typical college graduate, says, I always wanted to be a teacher, but pressures to make money, pressures to have a job that had greater approval in the community, and finally they come back to education. And I think that's a real sadness, because what you can accomplish in education, what you can do in education is so great. One of the things that, as I said, my experience at St. Joe's is a little bit different because it was part-time, it was at night, it was much later than everybody else. But one of the things that really impressed me in the leadership program was one of the professors talked about the importance of doing your job with passion. And I think as we look at the philosophy of St. Joe's, what St. Joseph's University has attempted to instill in all their students, I think this is one word that's very important for education. If you approach this field, if you approach this job with passion, you will be successful, whether you're doing it as a fundraiser, whether you're doing it as the school nurse, whether you're doing it as the kindergarten teacher or the high school calculus teacher. If it's done with passion, then you're going to make such a major difference. And I feel that this is an important role, whether no matter what level you are, but especially for women in education, because you can make such a great difference. 25 years ago, some of the young people in the audience probably don't know the name of Krista McAuliffe, but Krista McAuliffe was the first educator who went into the space program, and sadly the Challenger exploded and she died at that time. But she was very famous for a statement that's when she said, "I teach, I touch the future." What I say to you rather is, in this field of education, which is not a job, but I think truly a vocation, if you say, I am passionate about education, I make a difference. I think that is what we are called to do as women, as any aspect of education. Please be passionate about it and committed to it. You will accomplish so many things. You will make a difference, and you will be, you certainly will have lived the philosophy, the modus of St. Joseph's University. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was great.
I love that you teach, you touch the future. I've never heard that. Thanks for having me here today. I'm going to talk about something that I'm very passionate about. I believe that the single greatest civil rights issue of our time is centered around education, and that largely minority children throughout our cities are being victimized by chronically failing schools. The single greatest factor that will predict a child's ability to overcome a life of poverty, no question, is education. If a child cannot read on grade level by 3rd grade, the likelihood that the child will ever catch her peers is dramatically reduced. Some say you can project the number of inmates coming into the penal system based on the 3rd grade reading levels in our cities. Bill Gates was right to get behind education to try to solve the ills of our society. But fixing public education is no easy task. Only 1 out of 4 freshmen will graduate from high school in Camden, New Jersey. That's hard to believe. Only 1 out of 4 freshmen will graduate from high school. And only 10% will receive a proficiency-based high school degree, which is the degree you probably graduated with. In the Philadelphia School District, half of the students fail to meet basic reading and math skill on state-administered exams. It's pretty staggering. I was speaking with the pastor at a parish in St. Anthony's School, which is in Jersey City. He had a class of 30 incoming students that were making their confirmation in 7th grade. He told me he had to do the class orally because he only had a handful of students that could read. Can you imagine, right? 7th grade. Most families can move to another school district if they're unhappy with their schools. But if you're living below the poverty line, this choice is generally not available to you. And pretty much your zip code will determine your future. There was an article in this Saturday's Wall Street Journal. It highlighted a new crime that's spreading across America. It's called educational theft. The story profiled an African-American mother of 2 who used her father's address to enroll her 2 daughters in a better public school outside of her neighborhood. After spending 9 days behind bars, charged with grand theft, the single mother was convicted of 2 felony accounts. Not only did this stain her spotless record, but it threatened her ability to earn the teacher's certificate or license that she had been working on. Later, the governor, and this was in Ohio, granted clemency, reducing her sentence to a misdemeanor. But that's the level of distress that we are in right now, which is like right around us, right near us in our neighborhoods in Philadelphia and Camden. While they're fixing the public school system, many charters and Catholic schools are successfully educating children and need to be supported. Today, there are more than 1.5 million elementary, middle school aged children attending Catholic schools throughout the United States. 43% are in urban areas where they have been doing it for more than 100 years and doing a great job at it. Within the next 10 years, in my view, we will see the complete collapse of urban Catholic education in the United States, for sure. Primarily beginning, of course, as you've already seen in a lot of the schools that serve poor communities. Sustaining this is really a matter of social justice, in my view, right? So the question is, what can we do? The government and funders that traditionally support public schools need to become what I call delivery system neutral in education, right? So all the big foundations who've been throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars into the public system, and where there are not reforms that have been created to create better policies in the system, those funders and the government need to consider funding schools that work and become delivery system neutral on that idea. All parents should be given equal treatment and the ability to choose the best schools for their child. The Catholic Partnership Schools in Camden, which I talked about earlier, is this new model. There are 5 Catholic elementary schools. There's a nonprofit board that runs them, and they serve 1,000 kids. They outperform all the public and charter schools in the city. Yet, like all such schools, they really are at risk for closing if we don't do something. If the school choice bill is passed, 25% of their funding will come from the public sector. That will create sustainability for them because there'll be enough private and public funding mix to create a sustainable business model. And with graduation rates in the 90% range in those schools, they're making a huge contribution to the future of our society. And the price point is a real deal. A taxpayer in New Jersey will spend $25,000 to educate a first grader in Camden School District or in the public school district. If they send that child to a charter school, it'll be $16,000 a year. And if that same child goes to a Catholic elementary school, it's $6,000 a year, a real bargain.
all in. There's a bill called the Opportunity Scholarship Act. It's a school choice bill in New Jersey that's similar to Senate Bill 1 here in Pennsylvania. They have the EITC, which you may be familiar with in Pennsylvania. They're looking to expand that in Senate Bill 1 here. There are 12 states nationwide that have some form of choice that are happening. So there's a tsunami kind of raising up. This is a really big issue. It's not just, it's not the hurdle that it once seemed to be. I think it's very doable. But the way it works is the corporate tax credit, just in case you're not familiar, the way it works is they would provide corporate tax credits that would come from businesses. They would donate that money into a scholarship fund, and then they use those dollars to provide scholarships for children and parents to send their children to schools of their choice. Getting the bill passed is no easy task, right? So in New Jersey, along with some very talented people, I founded something called it's a nonprofit called We Can Do Better New Jersey. It's actually a C4, an advocacy organization. And the goal was to try to organize 100,000 Catholics in the state to get behind this. So this is a huge social justice issue. If you're a Catholic and you want to get behind something, getting behind advocacy for education is a great idea. The interesting thing is we've expanded our base now, and we now are including in our group the Black Ministers Council throughout the state, the Latino Leadership Alliance, the folks that are concerned about Jewish day schools, so Agudath Israel, the Jewish community, as well as a lot of free market right-wing Republicans. We are a motley crew when we get together. Also, we're going to be hosting a rally in December 1st in Trenton. We're asking 100,000 mothers, grandmothers, aunts, women to stand up for their children at the stairs of the State House and ask for the Speaker Oliver, who's the Speaker of the Assembly in New Jersey, to move the bill. But I'm just illustrating this to say these kind of movements are happening everywhere. They have reach in Pennsylvania. There's all kinds of initiatives for choice that are really important. No one should sit on the sideline. And I really applaud St. Joe's University for creating the Center for Catholic Urban Education. It could not be a more, I think, virtuous endeavor, and it's also establishing the ACE program that Anne-Marie spoke about. It's transformative. And anyone who is interested in becoming a teacher, I mean, having gone through this process over the last few years, I just would not be more proud of anything if my daughter asked and said to me, I want to become a teacher. I mean, it's just, to me, it's one of the most powerful roles that you can play. Of all the roles I think of all the jobs that children could have, I mean, to me, it's just my understanding over the last few years of what I see happen as a result of amazing teachers is just staggering. So for the students in the audience that I know value their education, I encourage you to get behind Senate Bill 1. You will need the people of the inner cities, right? These kids that are coming from, that will be educated if they make it through these schools like the Catholic schools, who will be spiritually balanced, spiritually centered, and super resilient. They are the people we want to lead the 21st century. This isn't charity work. There's some amazing, talented kids that just need a break, and we need to get behind it. Many of you may have heard the movie Waiting for Superman. I like to think of the Catholic schools as kind of like the Clark Kent. They're kind of the kind of the best kept secret, if you will. Make no mistake, they are saving lives of thousands of children in the inner city. And it is a matter of social justice. Along with great charter schools, we need to support them. And we all, as a foundation, we also run a charter school in Florida. I'm a huge fan of charter schools. I just feel like we need all kinds of great educational options for kids. Thank you for your time today.
I am so excited to be here with so many people who love education and who support the role of women in education. So before I even get started, I want to recognize one of my role models in education, my grandma, Evelyn Murphy. If you could stand up for 1 second. Today we are here because we realize that appreciation for education begins in your family. And not only are we recognizing that today, we're doing a little early celebration for my grandma's birthday. And we want to thank her for her role in inspiring 9 children, 4 of whom are teachers, her 19 grandchildren, and her 4 great-grandchildren to value education, particularly Catholic education. So thank you, Nan. When I think about education, I'm reminded of a quote by the legendary John Wooden. You can't live a perfect day without giving someone a gift that they can never repay. So For me, that gift is education. It is priceless, it is invaluable, it is one of a kind. It is a gift that we can never repay, but a gift that we can pay forward. Now, I'm going to do a quick exercise with everyone. I want everyone to close your eyes. Think back on your education, go back to your earliest memory. Think about first grade, second grade, third grade, all the way up until 8th grade. Now remember high school. Think about the women who influenced you in the classroom and out of the classroom, on the playing field or in an extracurricular activity. If you're old enough, remember your college experience and the woman who impacted you there. If you hold a graduate degree, remember your female mentors. Really stretch your memory and think about all those amazing women who have challenged you and have motivated you and made your education possible. Now open your eyes. There are so many roles that women play. I'm going to mention a few of the roles that you may have thought of, and if I call out a role that came to mind, raise your hand and keep it raised until I tell you to put it down. Raise your hand if you thought of one of your teachers who was a nun. Raise your hand if you thought of a female coach, a female principal, the school nurse, a tutor. Raise your hand if you remember your mom making your lunch or helping you study for a test. Raise your hand if you thought of your English teacher, your math teacher, your art teacher, your religion teacher, your social studies teacher, your science teacher, or any teacher at all. Now look around. I think every hand in the room is raised. Now I want you to keep your hand raised if, and only if, during your thought process you thought of my role, the female fundraiser. For the record, there are no hands up in the room. Now that is my job. It's a behind-the-scenes job, and it is an important one. I am truly honored to work in this field, and I'm proud to be a woman advocating with some of the top male and female leaders in Philadelphia to make a difference. I am humbled and impressed and truly staggered by the way that philanthropy can impact education and change lives, and further exciting is the role that women take on this leadership team. It is the job of the development officer that I learned through working here at St. Joe's with my awesome boss, Katie Shields over there, and Ryan and Megan who put this event together. And we learned to further the mission of the school through philanthropy by encouraging friends, family, alumni, parents, corporations, and foundations to invest in a worthy cause, which is that of education. I've worked in 4 very different educational institutions as a fundraiser, and my first job right out of college was at Malvern Prep, where I really saw how integral the woman's role was, which is kind of ironic because Malvern Prep, if you know, is an all-boys school. At times it was challenging to be a woman raising money here. I even coached middle school boys basketball and lacrosse, and that was a whole type of different role of a female educator. While coaching this team, I learned a really awesome lesson. At the end of our season, we worked hard and we played hard, and we had the best record in the school's history. And part of that was due to one of our players, whose name was Melvin. He was one of the best athletes I've ever seen. I promise you, we were down 15 points in the 4th quarter, and this guy came and scored 22 to come up with the win. He was a very unique student, and he was not the typical Malvern Prep student. He was a native of Nigeria. He came from a very poor family that had no money and no means to grant him an education. However, thanks to my job and a generous donor from Malvern Prep, we were able to have him come over here and live with the family and become one of the best soccer players in the country. Now, what was interesting about this gift was, not only was it solicited by a woman, put into an action by a woman who housed this student and raised him and helped him get to school every day, and he was brought here to play on a team coached by a woman, this gift was actually donated by a female donor. And that was something that I found truly amazing at Malvern Prep, that at this all-boys school, even then, women were taking a leadership role. On this panel, we are also asked to consider the social impact of education. And when I think of that, I think about how one person can make such a huge difference in the lives of others. It is more crucial than ever in Philadelphia for education to be a focus and for women to take a leadership role. While we cannot repay this gift, we have a mission and an obligation to pay it forward. When you think about that, the results are exponential. The math is pretty easy if you look at it, but I think I might need the help of an accountant, and unfortunately, I know a great one in the audience, my sister, Heather Goodwin, CPA. Where is she at? Stand up for 1 second. All right, I have 3 questions for you, Heather. If someone pays forward the benefits of education to 5 people, who in turn pay it forward to 5 more people, how many people have they touched? Now, if those 25 people pay it forward 5 more times, how many people's lives have they touched? 125. Yep. Now, if those 125 pay it to 5, who pay it to 5, who pay it to 5, who pay it to 5, how many is that?
A lot.
Yeah. My sister and I truly appreciate the impact of education that we learned to pay it forward. I mentioned how my grandmother set a good example. My mom also set a good example about how to pay it forward. When we were little, we would be paid $1 for every book and book report we would write during the summer. So we really took advantage of this, and after averaging over 100 books a summer, we literally made my mom pay it forward. And it was this love for education that allowed us to win full academic scholarships to college and what led me to meet the person who has most inspired me in fundraising and education. This week I had the opportunity to be with one woman, Josephine Mandeville. Josephine is the president and CEO of the Connolly Foundation, a foundation that has made a profound difference in education by supporting projects all over the city, one of which is the Newman Scholarship, of which I am a recipient. This scholarship truly taught me the importance, the value, and the impact that philanthropy can have on education. That is why I work in fundraising. It is why I donate my artwork to charitable organizations, why I compete in races to raise money for charity, and why I cherish my education. I saw Mrs. Mandeville this week, and we all gathered up all the Newman Scholars and Joseph C. Connolly Scholars over the past 14 years, and we were all talking about all the things we were doing. We were doing research for Alzheimer's disease fundraising projects, students were chairing different organizations, and I really thought about how big an impact one person can have. Now, there's over 3,000 Newman Scholars and Connolly Scholars in the Philadelphia region. If they pay it forward to 5 people, and they pay it forward to 5 people, and the tradition continues, I think that we've got a math problem that probably even Heather would have a little trouble solving. But we can all be a part of that and do the same thing. And while I was at St. Joe's, I was inspired every day by Mrs. Mandeville when I walked by Mandeville Hall. When I was graduating from St. Joe's and asked to be the commencement speaker, I thought back on what most affected me here, and I realized it was people who live the Modges, which we've heard so much about today, that Mary Lou Quinlan has addressed, that we've heard our panelists speak about. And I think back on one of the prime people in education that expresses the value of the Modges. And for those of you at graduation, you've heard me mention her, but I'm going to say it again because she's worth mentioning, and that's my friend and fellow Hawk, Jenny Young. She and I graduated from the School of Education the very same day, and we thought back on several years ago when her mom was diagnosed with brain cancer. With Jenna by her side, she fought a valiant battle, but in October of 2006, she passed away. Through this experience, Jenna learned that because of her positive and motivating personality, she was meant to make a difference in the lives of others as a teacher. In 2008, she enrolled at St. Joe's School of Education and was enthusiastic to begin classes in the fall semester. On her very first day of class, she learned that she too had been diagnosed with cancer. With the support of her friends, family, and the SJU community, Jenna underwent her battle with chemotherapy, won her fight with ovarian cancer, missed only one semester, and realized her dream when she sat in the audience with a picture of her mom taped to the inside of her cap. She is truly a woman leader in education. She is an example in so many ways of living the Modges. She's an educational leader and a proud product of Jesuit education. For me, she has inspired me to run for good causes. Exactly a year ago, on November 6th, we ran in the Brain Society Race for Hope, and she asked me to run with her to raise money for brain cancer research. Since then, I have been inspired by the spirit of the Modges, my Jesuit education, and my friend to raise money for charities all over the world. If anybody here wants to run in a race with me, I'd love to have you. Find me on Facebook, find my email. I know that we have that exact same race coming up on November 6th, and I'd love to see you all there. And I just want to thank my friend, Jenna, for inspiring me to appreciate my Jesuit education and literally go the extra mile, or 26.2 miles in this case, to be a woman for others and do more. As I wrap up, I want to talk about how, like in education, my whole family got involved in this effort with me to give back. And I have some members of my family running team here, which we have named Team Murphy's Law: Meg, Tori, Allie, my Aunt Dee, my Aunt Gail, my parents, my grandparents, and my sister. On Father's Day, we ran together. I ran with my dad and my family to raise money for my grandpa, who was a colon cancer survivor. And it reminded me that teamwork is also an important element of being a strong educational leader. It truly takes a team to educate a student. As a team, things get done faster and more efficiently. No woman can stand on her own to make a difference in education alone, no matter how passionate, dedicated, or intelligent she can be. She always needs the innovation, collaboration, dedication, and inspiration of other females. So I want to share with you an example of this. My cousin Allison Sharkey is in the audience. Al, can you stand up? I'm going to embarrass her, but Allie's a high school junior and one of the fastest 100 and 400 meter runners in the state. She is a woman to watch, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years we're back here listening to Allie speak as a woman leader in athletics. So Allie, I've got 3 questions for you too. Since Allie is so speedy, she competes in the shortest distance, which is the 100 meters. Now that is 1/4 of a track for those of you who aren't track fans. Al, what's your time in that race?
12.4.
That's really fast. Allie also runs in the 400 meters, which is 1 full lap around the track. Al, what's your time in that?
57.5.
No, that is really, really fast. From time to time, Allie will also run on the 4x100 meter relay race, which is the same as the 400. It's one lap around the track. However, there's 4 people combining to run this race. Now, Allie, how fast does your team run the 400 meter relay?
Around 50.
That's pretty fast too. Now, the example here is that Allison is the best and the fastest at both distances, but when the overall distance is divided between 4 hardworking, dedicated people, it gets done better and faster. Thanks, Al. And that is how we need to be as women in education. We need to bond together to get the job done. We need to know when to take the baton and when to pass the baton so that we can be the best relay partners we can be. Education is a gift, and to be able to work in education is truly a privilege for me. I'm going to wrap up in the way that many of us women educators wrap up our lessons and lectures, with a homework assignment. I want everyone in the audience, before you go to bed tonight, to think of a way that you, as an individual or as a team, can give the gift of education to someone who cannot repay it. Donate your time. Use your intellect to teach someone. Make a donation to your local school. Discuss it with your family and friends. Keep the conversation going. Think about that math problem that Heather did. Use that exponential impact to motivate you to do something small that turns into a big movement. When we gather here again next year or 2 years from now, whenever the next United event is, I hope that all of us, male and female, will have completed our homework assignment and received an A+.
Weren't they fantastic? So our plan is to have about 10 minutes for questions, which we do. We're very excited to have worked that out well. And I failed to introduce our liaison to She United, Maura. Say your last name, I'm sorry.
Slotowski.
Maura Slotowski. And she is going to, these women have been so organized, it's been really wonderful. And she's going to keep me on track here so that I can make sure that we stop at the time that we need to stop. So we'll take questions, and what I'd like you to do is just ask if it's a particular person that you'd like to direct the question to, say that in your question. Otherwise, I'll just throw it open to the panel. So, who has a question? Okay. Who did I pay to ask the question?
Can I say something in
Sure.
between, and then if anybody has questions, just interrupt. I forgot to tell you that in today's Inquirer on the local section is a terrific story about St. Malachi School and their brand new playground. And I happened to be at the dedication on Friday, and I can't tell you how exciting it is. This is St. Malachi School in North Philly that has had blacktop for the 150 years of the school's existence. And now it has this incredible climbing, swinging, sliding thing. And to see the kids come out of that, I have chills, to see the kids come out of that school building and see this for the first time was really exciting. So the article is by Monica Yant-Kinney in the local section of the Inquirer today. Little plug for Catholic urban schools.
Okay.
My name's Joni Miles. I work for a nonprofit called Children's Literacy Initiative, and we work in Camden City Schools. I work in Camden, doing professional coaching for teachers. And my question is about urban Catholic education and the role that the family plays. It seems like what we do in Catholic urban schools really couldn't be replicated in public schools because there is such parental buy-in. And I'm wondering, through both of your outreach programs, what role you feel or what responsibility, I guess, you feel to the parents and how they can best support their children in urban education.
I'll start that, and then
Sure,
I want
yeah.
to hear, just something interesting that we do in Camden, I've worked with Christine in Camden, is we have actually a parent survey that was distributed in the spring, and we just ran all the data, and we want to know from parents how we're doing. So one way we do that, and I'm sure public schools do this also, is that we say to parents, how important is this variable in an ideal school? So how important is it to you that your school building is clean, or that there's Catholic education within the school, and then how are we doing? And we kind of have our own little report card. So that's just one way that we, I think, guarantee some parent if not buy-in, at least feedback.
You know, the other thing is, I hear a lot that the reason why Catholic schools are successful as opposed to some of the publics is that the parents are involved. I actually don't think our parents show up. I mean, you may know more about that. I really don't think they do, so that's first. The other is that there was just a study done in The Economist talking about what makes schools successful, and they talked about decentralized school, you know, just systems that are smaller. I think the thing that's probably more powerful about urban Catholic schools, they tend to be more like families, smaller, there's a culture there that is a little bit more helpful, engaging families. We did just hire two graduate support people that are bilingual, and one working in K to 5th grade, and the other person doing graduate support, which is the upper grades and into high school. And their only job is to connect with families, you know. So I think you just have to do what the KIPP charter schools do. You just have to work a lot harder at it, you know, and believe that they'll, just keep showing up for them, and then maybe they'll show up for the kids too. I mean, you know, so.
And schools have programs where, you know, you have to make a commitment. LaSalle Academy in Philadelphia has a program where somebody has to be committed to that student and has to show up at every meeting. We know of programs where, you know, you can donate your time or money, you know, pick one. But a lot of our parents are working 2 jobs, and they're not parents, they're grandparents or their aunts and uncles, and it's a great strain on families too.
Yeah, and your parents are a huge piece of it. But I'm kind of of the mindset, like, we'll do it anyway. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of pressures happening in the inner city. I mean, that's where we need to be family, where there is no family, you know, and that's okay. I just think, you know, so.
Can I say something to it? And as I said, I was at Cardinal Doherty, which was urban, Archbishop Wood, which is suburban. I think the whole aspect of a Catholic school, a charter school where there's choice, whether the parents are involved or not, there's this conscious choice that this is where I want my child educated, and it creates a totally different atmosphere. When I was at Cardinal Doherty, I guess by the time I left, maybe 40% of the students were not Catholic. So these were people who were choosing the school for the education, for the value-centered education. And it was virtually impossible to get people to join a parents' association. Back to school, it would be relatively well attended after that, because parents had too many other things going on. But when you had an issue, the parents were there because they had made the choice and they wanted their child to complete the education there. So I think that the Senate Bill 1 here in Pennsylvania, efforts in New Jersey, for all of us in Catholic education to be able to continue to provide a choice, whether you are the urban poor or the suburban wealthy. We can't eliminate this choice for people, and I think that's a good thing for all of us.
Also, my dream is 1,000 mentors for 1,000 kids. I'm a really big believer in the whole mentoring program, and what they are doing here at St. Joe's is really cool. I was actually going to go talk to them about how they're identifying mentors for students here. Yes.
Hi, my name is Tangela McClam. I am an educator in the school district of Philadelphia and happen to live in New Jersey. I did my graduate work initially at St. Joe's Elementary Education, but just finished a program at Columbia in educational leadership. And very much so interested in starting a charter school in New Jersey, in Burlington County in particular, that really does not have any school choice. I heard you speak a lot, Christine, about initiatives that you have with Catholic schools. I was wondering if you have any initiatives for starting charter schools.
Well, we run a charter school in Florida, and it's called the Riviera Beach Maritime Academy. It's the only school in the country that has a floating classroom. My father is in the boat business, and so he has a service center down there, and that's why. And so, I'm a huge fan of charter schools. So the whole deal is that, we haven't started one as a foundation ourselves. We're pretty much focused on the Catholic, trying to create a model in this Catholic school thing, because we figure these things are already up and running. My deal is like, we need mapping in our cities that show publics, charters, Catholics, Catholic schools, non-public schools, and just, show parents where these schools are working, where the seats are, and just get really neutral about it, and not get all hung up. And whatever's working, we need to get behind. And, even the Catholic community is all paralyzed about charter schools. They shouldn't be.
we need to be talking to them. I'm trying to, they should be on our boards, we need to learn from what they're doing great in charter schools, But what I don't want to see happen is, I don't want a charter school master to come into the city of Camden, open up a block down the street from a Catholic school, unload 250 kids out of the classic school, move them into a charter school, cost the taxpayers in New Jersey more money, and for what? A zero-sum game, That's what I'm about when it comes to that. And so but I think that we've done ourselves a disservice by not kind of arming together as good school educators, charter, public, whatever, rather than getting all paralyzed in silos, you know what I mean? And funders are going to be the people that are creating that platform of a conversation, because funders are putting money into the charters, as they should, and into the Catholics, and those funders are starting to have the conversations. So, I applaud your efforts.
Okay, we have time for one more question, so let's take this question in the back.
Yes, this is for Becky. I know that you raise money for grade schools, high schools, and at the college level. I was wondering which one was the most challenging, which one was the most enjoyable to raise money for?
That is a very tough question. I think that in each institution, it's very different, and the rewards are very different. When I was at Malvern Prep, it was for a whole different genre of kids, where it was an overall pretty affluent school. However, there were kids there that were, based on merit, should have been there but couldn't have afforded it. So for me, that was where my specialty lay. I would try and get different scholarship initiatives up and running. So that was the most rewarding part of there. When I went to St. Joe's and worked with Katie, I think that one of the best accomplishments we saw was when that whole on 54th Street was put up and we now had a Hagen Arena for people to play in, and that's a totally different accomplishment from Malvern. And when I was over at the Academy in Manayunk, again, it was a whole different thing where those kids didn't choose to be there, but they needed to be there. And that type of educational fundraising it wasn't going above and beyond. It was about making sure that people got the education that they truly deserved based on, no financial obligations and no merit base. It was about people needing service. And now at Drexel, I think that it's a whole different type of fundraising. And I think that this might actually be my most exciting, because it's starting to bridge the gap between the educational institutions in Philadelphia and the cultural, artistic, musical venues such as the Academy of Natural Sciences, which is going to be my main project, to merge the educational side with the arts and city alliances in Philadelphia and kind of bring them together. And I think that that's going to be most rewarding, because that's going to be a trend that we're going to see across all the areas that I've worked, and everybody's going to start moving towards that kind of cross-collaboration. So I think each one is different and exciting in a different way, but right now I'm very excited to take on this new project.
Well, first of all, it seems like we're out of time, and so I would really like to again express my thanks and thanks of the community to our panelists, and also to Laura for helping us make this workshop run so smoothly. Once we do express our thanks, I'd like to encourage you to join us for coffee and dessert, or to film your own story in the video booth across the hall. So again, thank you so much. Let's thank our panelists and